Hi, my name is Joseph Michael Dickerson. I'm an asset protection and estate planning attorney. And this broadcast is brought to you by the J.M. Dickerson Law Firm, Legal Solutions for Your Life and Business. We started this podcast. It's called The Solution Point. This is a podcast in which we're going to provide solutions to everyday problems, especially in business, life, and law. Each week, we'll bring on a new guest and ask them to share their solutions with all of us. Let me first introduce my better half and our producer, Catalina Dickerson, who
Hey, everybody.
has many years of business management and marketing experience.
Hi, everybody. And hi, Victor. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Actually, when he said my better half, I thought he was going to say Victor Serna, but it's all right.
Well, let me go ahead and I'll introduce myself as you said, the better half, but yeah, two halves make a whole, right? So
Exactly.
but yeah, I'm Catalina Dickerson, and this little podcast has kind of been a little a baby and a dream come true, basically. And so we're excited to have you as our first guest, Victor. And I know that you are a realtor and here in Laredo, and we see a lot of your social media. You're with Keller Williams, and I saw that it's New Beginnings also. So love for you to introduce yourself to us and tell us a little bit about yourself before we dive into our solution point.
Awesome. Well, thank you for having me. I feel very honored to be the first guest on the show. I know it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an awesome show. It's going to take off. And more than anything, you guys are providing great value to people that are listening, right? You're not asking for anything in return. You're just here trying to help. And that is amazing. That's something you guys are known for within our community. Obviously, I met you guys through Rotary. And I know you guys have a very giving heart. So I know this podcast is going to bring a lot of value to a lot of different people. And I can't wait to see it grow. A little bit about myself. Oh man, where do I even start, man? What do you guys want to know exactly? Obviously, I am a realtor here in Laredo. Actually, I think I'm still kind of growing and transforming into the person that I'm supposed to be. And I think we're always doing that, right? The more people we meet, the more hands we shake, we just keep on evolving and we try to keep the best parts of each person that we meet, right? So I think asking me, hey, who are you? In essence, it's kind of a tricky question because you're always evolving, right? You're always growing, and you are a culmination of the people that you end up meeting throughout your lifetime. But at this moment, I think I want to describe myself as a student, right? I have been doing my trade for about 4 years, but along with that, I've really gotten into the entrepreneur spirit, and I've learned what it is to actually manage your own business, be part of your business, and just kind of how to grow as a person, right? And what does having a business even mean? I mean, does it mean you open up some shop and you start making money? Or does it mean that you end up evolving into this person that can actually provide value to other people? And through that, have a successful business. I think that is the key to having a successful business, just helping out other people, and eventually that help comes back the other way.
Cool. Yeah, no, definitely. And we're all about, for sure, giving back, and you are also a Rotarian with us. And we want to use this format and this platform to be able to give back to fellow entrepreneurs like ourselves, like yourself. Let's share ideas. And so that's why we brought the solution point as a podcast. And these are solutions for everyday lives. And that's, your working individuals, your business owners, those that can really benefit from that, and we can move ourselves forward. So fantastic. And I know that we're going to have a couple of just some discussion points, and we talked about, as we've mentioned, this is the solution point, and we asked you what problem, maybe like in recent time, and you mentioned you're a student, and so you're kind of still learning, but what problem do you have right now that you're creating a solution for? And tell us about that problem, and let's kind of dive into that solution.
Right. So I think the biggest problem that I had once I went into business for myself is I didn't realize how much of a terrible employee I was until I started working for myself. So at some point, I'm like, wow, people were really putting up with this as I was working for them, right? I was like, man, that's incredible, and God bless those
And putting
people.
up with what? What did you find? What are the stuff that was just like, oh my gosh, I'm stuck, I'm a
Yeah.
bad employee. What were those things?
You know what? The discipline to just kind of stick to one task. That's I'm terrible at that. Not because I don't want to do it, or maybe because yes, sometimes I don't want to do it. But more than anything, I'm like a puppy, right? I see a shiny object and I want it. I'm like, oh yes, that's what I'm going to do next, and this is what I'm going to do next, and I'm just all over the place, right? So,
Okay.
I'm not sure if I have ADHD or if I should be diagnosed with something, but I am constantly just looking at different ideas, and I get excited and just as I'm halfway through one idea, it's just something else pops up. I'm like, all right, let's move on to the
Right.
next. So I
It
guess the discipline just to stick with a certain project and see it through, right?
Okay.
That
sounds
was
And you mentioned that you said, we're kind of talking about discipline, but you mentioned it is the follow-up. So the problem you had was the failure to follow up, or the lackluster effort of follow up, correct?
right, exactly. And I started looking for solutions, right? As I identified this problem, I think the first thing you need to do is become aware that there is a problem. It's like, hey, how come I'm not being successful, or what's getting in my way? And sometimes it's your own self, right? And you have to ask yourself, where does this come from, and how do I deal with it? You need to start looking for these solutions, whether it's online or through a great podcast called The Solution Point, right? Nice plug-in. So you have to start looking for solutions, or even for other people that have had the same issue, and ask them, how did you do it? How did you overcome this one issue, right? So along this journey, I picked up a couple of reading materials, and I started asking for other people for help and what their experience has been, and I started applying those things into my everyday life, right? Now, how do you do this when you have a follow-up problem, right? You're like, all right, this is a new project I'm going to take on. I'm going to take on the project of having self-discipline, right? Having
Okay.
discipline and developing a new habit. But halfway through that, I might just drop it, right? Because I might see something else that's shiny. So it took me a while. It actually took me about a year of, hey, you know what? Let me get started on developing my discipline. And halfway through it, I might have lost sight of the goal and jump into something else. But I always came back and said, hey, you know what? Like, all my problems and all my issues are because of this one negative trait that I have. So my own like downfall would bring me back to the original goal, right? And it was kind of funny how that same bad trait that I had ended up throwing me back on the course that I needed to be. It's crazy. It's kind of like a vicious circle, right?
Right.
So
well, I'll tell you that that's a very common entrepreneurial trait. Entrepreneurials tend to have 1,000 ideas and want to pursue all of them at the same time. And so every shiny object that comes up, every new idea, it's hard to say no. And that's kind of been that's my word for this year is focus.
yeah.
And so trying to not get distracted with the other things that come up. And so tell us maybe some of the books that you've read that have helped you stick to being able to be disciplined and follow up.
I think it's a combination of things, but the primary book that I want to reference would be The Willpower Instinct. And it really, I'm not sure if you guys have read it, but it ends up talking about, and funny enough, I haven't finished it because I've jumped to other books. But what I've read, it just makes so much more sense. Anytime I get into it, I start from the beginning. I was like, all right, cool. Let me see how far I can get into the book, right?
I think what we're going to do for you, though, in the comments of this podcast,
Mhm.
we're going to ask our listeners or our watchers and give your suggestions to Victor because he's still on the journey. But that's good. So the willpower instinct, and we'll put that, in the comments below. But thank you.
Definitely. No,
What has worked right now, though? What is something that's helped you? Do you make lists, or do you have someone else hold you accountable?
yeah. So again, I'll take it back to the book. I was able to read enough of it to develop bursts of discipline, right? So it wasn't only about keeping myself disciplined, but keeping myself motivated and excited. I found that was really a big drive for me. It's like, all right, cool. This is where the goal is at. And this is what's at that goal, right? You're going to be successful. It's going to be awesome. Your family's going to be great. Your family's not going to need anything. And that really drives me. I came from a very financially challenged family, right? Growing up. That's a very fancy word for poor. So so I grew up needing a lot of things, not needing, but wanting a lot of things and not being able to have them. And I remember that being such a terrible feeling. My parents having to tell me, no, not right now, or we'll see what happens, right? So I'm like, hey man, no, that's terrible. I want this thing, right? So
Yeah.
I don't want my family to go through that again. And that was one of the biggest motivators. Hey, you know what? What's motivating me to start my own business and be financially free? But again, to go back to your question, I read enough of the book to give me small bursts of discipline to the point where I had small bursts of success within my business, right? And once I was able to, like in one of those bursts, it actually extended over a couple of months. I had enough money to tell my wife, hey, you need to stop working and come work with me, right? More than anything. So she was actually assisting an attorney here in Laredo. And I'm like, well, if you could do that for him, like if you're keeping him accountable and you're creating agendas and tasks and a planner for him, why don't you come in and invest your time over here? And she's like, well, it's because I'm the only reliable source of income right now, because of my issue. And I wasn't blind to that, but I told her, hey, you know what? If you're on my butt about just working and just redirecting my energy the way it's supposed to go, I mean, she was just a gigantic help. As soon as she came on board, it went from me being disciplined 30% of the time to about 80 or 90%. I mean, it was just incredible the kind of change we saw within the business as soon as she joined. And she just keeps me accountable, right? All the time. At some point, I'm like, hey, you know what? Like, maybe I should take a little break. She's like, nope, start making phone calls or follow up with this person, or we still have these things to do. Relax at night. I was like, okay, perfect, cool. So I now have an external voice, because with the book, I was able to develop an internal voice to tell me, hey, keep going. But now when that fails, I have this external support system telling me, hey, you know what? Go ahead and get back to it. So I think I would suggest to people, hey, you know what? It's a process, because no one's going to turn extremely disciplined from one day to another, but start developing it slowly, right? And at some point, once you see that you're able to go ahead and afford some sort of external support, go for it. Take that jump, take the plunge, go past the fear of like, hey, what's going to happen if we don't make it? Because as soon as you take that jump and you get the right person on your side, that's just going to increase productivity, right?
And then you become a team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the beauties, and I'm exactly right there where you're at. My accountability partner is always with me.
Yeah.
So the great thing is you have that accountability partner with you all the time, and it's also your reason for trying to be successful. This is your family, and you want to provide a better life for your family. You want to keep improving your life situation. Well, you're both in the boat and you're both rowing in the same direction. So I think that's great. I do want to address one quick point that you said is about fear. And that's that I have an acronym that I got from one of my mentors. FEAR means false evidence appearing real. So it's, the false evidence is, well, if you come work for me, we might not make enough money to pay the bills.
Yep.
But the reality is, if you come work for me, we can make this business generate more than each of us are individually. And I bet you've seen that in your practice. Is you've seen you probably now that Anagabi is there working with you, you guys are making more than you were making when you were the realtor and she was working with the attorney.
Exactly. Yeah. We definitely have. She has been a great asset, personally and professionally. Again, she's amazing, and I want to say, maybe if I would have been on my own, I would have gotten here at some point. And again, I still have a lot to learn, but she definitely accelerated the process, and she is a great support system and a great partner. But going back to what you said, fear, right? I mean, that's such a crazy thing, right? That stops a lot of us from ever achieving our dreams. because you get analysis paralysis, and you're like, what happens if it doesn't go right? What if there's a lack of something? So people start looking for reasons why they shouldn't do it, why they shouldn't do it versus why they should, right? And I always think that the benefits always outweigh any kind of negative outcome, right? Because if you fail, you're right back at where you started. And not only that, but now you learn something. Now you learn how not to do something, right?
Yeah.
So you want to fail. You want to have that failure under your belt, because now you can say, well, I know this isn't the path. Now I know I have to go ahead and try this other thing, right? This other way of developing my business. So failure is great, man. It's just part of the process.
You learn more from your mistakes than your successes. And
100%.
if you have a chance to read my book, The Roadmap to Rich, I talk about one of my first big real estate deal. I wound up leaving the closing table with $10,000 on a purchase. And it was like, what do you mean I'm getting this check back? So it's like the worst thing that could have happened, because it made me think I was good.
Right.
When I was really just lucky. But there's that evolution. But one of the things I want to make sure we talk about, and something that's really impressed me that you've started doing this year, and it is ¿Qué pasa with your casa?
Yeah.
I get those bomb videos from you, and I have to see what you have to say.
Yeah.
What are you eating? Are you eating tacos, or is it a bowl, or?
It's tacos, but you know what? Recently, well, this past Saturday, I also have a show which we bring on guests and we talk about their success stories and all that good stuff. And we had the owner of Casa Yoga, right, Ms. Alejandra Arguindegui, and she started talking about how going vegan, not only fuels your body the right way, but it provides a certain type of mental clarity that you can't get when you're eating meat. And I'm like, dude, I love meat, bro. Like I love eating steaks and burgers and all that stuff. So maybe I'll just have meat like one day out of the week. Anyway, so I started going, not vegan. I'm just not eating meat. All right. I started on Monday.
You're not going to say it like that.
Exactly. So I started this Monday, and I've been, and obviously because of the weather and all that good stuff, I haven't released this week's episode. But I'm like, man, what am I going to eat? That's like my thing, right? Tacos. People love watching me eat tacos. And even though you can't see them up close, people love watching other people eat on video for some reason. There's these videos called mukbangs. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but it's just people eating, like eating giant lobster, eating giant crabs, eating 100 like packs of noodles, whatever it is. So people love watching other people eat. And watch it, and you'll be disgusted and mesmerized at the same time. Yeah. Look it up on YouTube. I'll send it to you. Okay. We'll put it on the notes. I'm kidding. No, we won't. But I'm like, dude, that's my thing. Tacos, right? Tacos and real estate advice and entrepreneur advice. What am I going to eat now? Like,
Nopalitos?
I know, but in a tortilla, like it's people don't want to see that, right? People want to see me stuffing my face with some disgusting greasy stuff. So I'm thinking of having one of my team members eat tacos right next to me while I'm talking about real estate and entrepreneur advice. So I think that's going to be the next move, right? This week, I think I might go over to our local vegan restaurant here in Laredo, and my mouth is watering, and have a milanesa made out of soy and just put it on a tortilla. So I don't know. Keep an eye out for it. But yes, ¿Qué pasa with your casa? I got this idea from this realtor out of Alabama. His name's Ricky Caruth, and his philosophy is about providing value all the time without asking for a sale, right? So what he does, he sends out this weekly newsletter with just pieces of information, what's happening in the area and what's happening with real estate. If there's like some sort of like snowstorm coming in, he'll talk about that. I'm like, oh, that's cool, right? So he sends that out to his database, which consists of about 9,000 people, right? And he says, I have a 25% success rate when it comes to them opening it, right? So he has roughly around 2,500 people a week looking at his stuff. And I was like, dude, that's amazing, So I said, you know what? I'm not very good at making newsletters. What am I good at? I'm good. I mean, I'm okay. I'm sorry. At appearing on video and having a voice for radio and a face for radio more than anything. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start doing these weekly informational videos. Not trying to sell anyone anything, just providing information, just kind of how you guys are with this podcast. And yeah, a lot just like Mike just said right now, hey, you know what? I've had several people go like, dude, I love your videos. Like, I mean, I'm not even doing anything crazy. I'm just sitting there eating, right? Like a pig. But people just say, hey, dude, I've been watching your videos and they catch my attention. And I feel very flattered, honestly. I'm like, dude, like who even wants to listen to me, right? But it's all about providing value and staying top of mind with your clients, right? And just being there for whenever they need help, any kind of help, obviously.
One last thing on the bonbon is one of my attorney friends. He does bankruptcy law, but at the end of their whatever court meeting where they get their approval on their bankruptcy, he'll send them a personalized bonbon video.
Oh.
And so I'm just throwing it out there. You could be at the end of a closing, you could send your client a quick little video. Hey, congrats, you're a new owner. And
he's writing it down.
There you go. That's a writer downer.
Yeah, I need to write it down. Bomb for closings. Okay, but I mean, we usually do gifts, right? So I mean, obviously that's one way to kind of stay in touch. But and we try to give something that that'll stay with them for like a cutting board, or maybe during Christmas, what we actually did a couple of Christmas ornaments. So now every Christmas that comes along, it says Proud Homeowner 2020 or whatever it is, something like that.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
And so bringing that to one of the other things that's important in this podcast is we talk about core values, and I think you shared your core value, or one of your core values is care about clients as if they were family. You want to expand a little bit on that? I think you kind of did there, but maybe you want to give us a little more.
Yeah, definitely. I you know what, and it's hard to prove that sometimes because within the real estate, I guess, business or community, people see us as salespeople, right? They're like, hey, they're just trying to make a sale, and not say we don't get paid when something gets closed. We do get paid, right? But our job is more to go ahead and be a guide through the transaction. It takes 30 to 45 days, sometimes 6 months if you're doing any construction. So there's all these things that may pop up, all these problems or situations that we deal with every day, right? The average person deals with it once, two, maybe three times within their lifetime, each time they buy or sell a house. But for us, it's something that just comes naturally. Like, hey, you know what happens whenever we have some sort of roof leak? Like, who's going to pay for that? How are they going to pay it? Is it going to get paid at closing? Who do we contact? So there's all these little things that can go wrong throughout the transaction that they don't allow us to be salespeople, because if we are trying to be salespeople, we don't care for our clients. If we don't care for our clients, they're going to have a bad experience. If they have a bad experience, they're going to make so much noise, it'll guarantee that you'll never have business again, right? So not only is it important for the well-being of my business, but I've always had this sense of like, hey, try to help someone if you can, right? Even if you get nothing in return. Hey, you know what? You see someone asking for money or something on the street, buy them some food, right? And don't post it on social media, or don't do this, which by the way, it could go both ways. A lot of people say, hey, you know what, where you're posting yourself, helping this person, you're not supposed to be spreading that around, right? Or kind of flexing that on other people. But
you do that in secret, right? Because God knows that you do it. So you do it, you do it in, as they say, in private, right?
Exactly. But at the same time, if you post about something like that, do you think you could inspire someone to help someone else out?
Yeah.
What's that movie? Is it called Pay It Forward? I've never seen it, but the concept of just helping someone and they have to help someone else out, and it just keeps on going forever, right? So I'm like, well, if you could inspire someone to do something great, go ahead and do it. So sometimes when I see people helping out other people online, like when it's obvious that they're just doing it for the likes, right? I'm like, dude, well, that's kind of wrong. But if you make a post about it, or if you try to write something inspirational, I don't know. It's really hard. It depends on how the person receiving that message is going to take it. But to me, I'm like, dude, don't glorify yourself helping out other people, right? But yes, go ahead.
I was wondering, and going back to that in the core value, and we kind of we have also been exploring it ourselves for our firm and for our business. And, then that's kind of why we wanted to, open this up and find out what other people think about, their core values and how that helps facilitate at the workplace, how people do and conduct business, right?
Mhm.
So we came up with 7 core values, and we're kind of we discussed them and rolled them out to our team. And not only, okay, yes, this is the core value, but this is what it means. This is the definition as what it means to our firm, right? And how to conduct yourself in business. So how do you, like treating like family, how does that how do you wrap that up with your business, and what results have you gotten from that?
Right. So we've gotten really positive results. And again, when we care for someone as if they were friends or family, we put that much more effort into our business, right? Because if I had a family member that is buying a house, right, and they're under contract for 45 days. In order to be under contract, they need to provide this one thing called earnest money, right? The buyer says to the seller, "Hey, seller, here's my offer. Along with my offer, here's $1,000. If I don't get out, if I get out of this contract without a valid reason, you keep the $1,000, right?" So my job, as I'm helping out a buyer, is to go ahead and make sure everything turns out okay, right? That they don't have to back out and lose their $1,000. And if they do, I'm gonna make sure they get their money back one way or another, right? Even if it comes out of my own pocket. I mean, I've done it where like, hey, dude, like I'm sorry, like I messed up. Here's $1,000 from my own pocket, right? And that's really caring for someone,
Right.
as if they were your family member, your friend. So not only are you talking the talk, but you walk the walk when it comes down to situations like that. And even though the deal might have gone south for XY reason, they still see you as like, man, this person really cares about me, right? Like they didn't even make a sale. This deal went south, yeah, but they still give me $1,000 because they care about me, right? So
And they're going to come back to you, and they're going to tell, they're going to tell their friends and their family. So
mhm.
you're paving the way for referrals.
100%. And I'll give you an example. I had a deal last year where the seller went through a divorce, right? And they didn't tell me that they haven't been paying their mortgage for the past 5 or 6 months. So they didn't disclose that at the time of closing. The lender says like, cool, like this is your balance. Also, by the way, they haven't paid us for 6 months, so they still owe us $9,000, right? And they bought the house about a year or two ago, so they hadn't built enough equity. What equity is? It's the amount of money between how much you owe and how much the house is worth. So let's say the house is worth $100,000. You owe $90,000 to the bank. Those 10,000 between the 90 and the 100,000, that's equity. So anyway, the seller didn't have enough equity because they had just owned the house for about a year, right?
Right.
And it's funny because when they asked for my help, they're like, dude, we're gonna lose our house, our credit's gonna be shot. I was like, look, let me try and sell it. We'll try and sell it for as much money as we can. We'll use XYZ strategy. And we end up getting a contract, right? And it's funny because I told him like, dude, I know you don't have enough equity. I'm just gonna charge you $4,000, right? And
Right.
I'll keep 2,000 for myself, and I'll give 2,000 to the agent that's gonna bring the buyer, because we split our commission, right? We advertise it. Hey, you know what? They're paying me X percent. I'm gonna give the other agent half of it if you bring a buyer. Anyway, the other agent was like, hey, dude, like my buyer really liked the house, but it's only paying $2,000. I'm like, dude, like we're supposed to be caring for our clients regardless of how much we end up getting paid,
Right.
right? Like the market. And I wish I could give you more, but I mean, there's just no room for it in the equity, right? So I tell her, I'm like, you know what? Here's an extra 1,000 from my side. Like there's 3,000 for you. Just like if your client loves that house, my seller needs to sell. Let's make the deal happen. Like
Right.
let's help these people out reach their goal. And anyway, that ended up happening. And again, towards the end, they were requiring an extra $9,000 from the seller. So the seller was like, dude, I don't have the equity. He's like, at the very most, I could put together $6,000. So we still needed 3,000, right? I gave up my 1,000 that I had left. So there was 2,000 left. The lender did the part. The buyer's lender was like, well, I'll forego my commission as well. The title company.
Wow. Everybody came together. Everybody was treating the client like family. That's where everybody came together. So yes, that's a fantastic story. Thank you so much.
No
And
problem.
it's been a pleasure to have you. on our official first podcast. So yes, put that badge on your
Thank you.
Facebook page. I'll send you the graphic. But again, tell us how we can get a hold of you and contact you, and when we want to sell and buy a house.
Somebody wants to buy or sell, how do they
Yes.
get a hold of you?
Or if they need help with anything, right? If I have knowledge about any general problem that they have, you guys can go ahead and reach me at 956-754-0907. Follow me on Instagram, RealVic88, or just on Facebook as Victor Serna, right? We'll be around if you guys need anything.
And how can
Thank you, Victor.
How can they get on your list for Que Pasa with Your Casa?
Oh, just shoot me a message with your email address, and I'll definitely go ahead and add you on there. You guys can watch me eat all these vegetarian foods.
Vegan tacos. Let's see how long that lasts.
Yeah, exactly. I'll let you know. So hopefully I don't drop it halfway through. Today's my first week. Well, not first week. It's barely Thursday. So once I get to Monday, I'll shoot you guys a message to let you know I got through my first week.
All right.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much, Vic. Thank you, Kat, for producing for us. And we appreciate you guys. And I think we got a lot of good information for our viewers and listeners. And we'll look forward to next week.
You got it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye.